Hi, how you doing? Been a couple of weeks I think since I was on here, and in that time lots of stuff going off. I've been selling stuff on eBay and people are always asking me, what are you doing that for? Well, it's time for somebody else to enjoy all this rubbish that I've collected over the years and performed over the years. And then out of the blue I got a message from, I think it's the granddaughter of Ken Brooke. Now, to most of you who are just normal, not insane magicians, you probably have never heard of Ken. And Ken was the greatest magic dealer I ever saw. There are people who perform tricks and sell tricks to magicians, and then they're taken on. I mean, Ken sold me so much stuff that I performed just about all my life. He looked like this. Hope you can get to see this, because this is a DVD about him. He put a bit of weight on later on in his life, and this has a sound commentary by Patrick Page, and there's some comments on there that I'm a little bit surprised about, because I liked Pat a lot, a wee Scots fella. But let's talk about Ken. I first met Ken when I was about 22 years old. I went to a magic convention where all these nutty guys meet and buy tricks and swap tricks and show each other and chat. That's what it's really all about, that chat. And then down the aisle came this fella. I think this particular convention was in Leeds, and it was put on by a man called Harry Stanley, who ran the Unique Magic Studios and had the good sense to have Ken Brooke as his demonstrator, because Ken really was a brilliant performer with digital dexterity, as it were. And so down the aisle came this fella, and he was doing a trick that was new then called the dancing cane. And this was a gentleman's evening cane, and it was dancing all round him, and it was really clever if you know the secret, because he was walking down the aisle, which gave him a very broken background around. You really couldn't see how it was done. And I could be wrong, it's either 17 shillings and sixpence in real money or 21 shillings, I can't remember, I'd have to look that up. And he was, of course, selling it, as with so much other stuff. Also, on that show, he did the linking rings, which is, again, it's on here. And I have to say, because I knew how it was done, I thought he'd invented a new method. I really did. It was just astonishing what magicians called the count, when you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was just, well, they were separate, and it was just amazing to watch. So afterwards I went round to his stall, his stand, and I don't know why he would do this. There am I, a young man, and not very knowledgeable, of course. I thought I was, about the world of magic. And he says, and he had a high voice, and he came from Bradford, and he talked a bit like that, And he said, now, you just stand there, son, you just wait there. And I waited, and when the crowd thinned a bit, he came round the front of the stall and he taught me how to do the dancing cane. He could have just sold me it, could have just given me the instructions, but he didn't. He taught me how to do it. I did it for a little while. He taught me how to, the best background. He taught me how to move my hand this way, just as it was going that way, to make it look like it was not connected to me at all, which being magical, of course, it wasn't. And so he really did that. At other times while I was watching him, there was a young man came up to a kid, came up to his stand at one of the conventions and was looking, and he says, how much is that? And again, this totally nice guy said, no, up there, you don't want that. That's too clever for you to do. And the kid was pointing at a thing called the Okito coin box, which is a brass box with a little lid, and you put a penny or a half crown in those days. inside, and you put the lid on, and then it penetrated the bottom of the box. It would come through your hand, it would go over the through a deck of cards and all that jazz. By the way, if you can hear little tinkly bells in the background, it's my crazy rabbits playing football with the ball with the bell in it. And so he said to this kid, no, you don't want that, no, buy this one, because this one you can do. And that was, I think, one of the great secrets of why people went to Ken Brooke. Everything I bought from him, I could perform. I did it. Okay? I can't say that of everything else I bought, and I'm sure every magician would agree with me, you couldn't. And one of the criticisms Pat has got on here is that this is, you know, he says, you watch this, you'd wonder why people were raving about Ken Brooke, and he's right in that respect. But what he's forgetting is, at this particular time, it was very difficult to have sound on film as an amateur filmmaker, and the man that made it, Louis Ganson, was a brilliant writer and explainer of magic, but he could not, you know, he was a keen amateur film guy. And so in those days, if you watch the great comedians of the past on old films, silent films, or even talkie films, you'll think, well, where's the personality? What were they raving about? And the thing was, there's nobody in the studio. We see it now on TV when there's nobody in the studio, and they've added on this sound of people laughing and applauding, and they, you know, you watch telly and you think, well, why isn't it alive? Well, it's not alive because there's nobody to perform to. So it still works today, and it worked then. There's poor old Ken, who was a natural person. He gets involved with people. He has this twinkle in his eye. He knows he's going to fool you. He was just a great character. And if you went to a magic convention, there would be all the big stands from Supreme Magic and Davenport, so on. They'd have people. But around the Ken Brooke table, they would be packed. They would really be packed. And he would be selling stuff on a money-back guarantee. But if you took it back, Ken had been a market trader at one time, and if you took it back, he would say, right, and give you your money back. But then he wouldn't sell you anything else, because he knew the stuff was good. You just bought it for the secret. And that's what you buy when you buy magic. You buy the secret. And he wouldn't sell you anything else. That's it. You were out of the game. He sold me the cup for the cup and the ball routine that I do. And it was very interesting to watch him on here, because he used to say to me all the time, hey, you were in Bradford last night, you were in Leeds last night, you were in so-and-so. How do you know? He said, well, that's where the orders come from for the cup. Because magicians would watch me and then do it, and although a lot of people believed, particularly amateurs, that the cup and ball routine I do came from him, if you watch this and then watch me on there, you'll realise how much I changed the routine to Ken's delight, and I gave him a few lines for it as well. So I was a bit surprised by Pat saying things like, I don't know why he's doing this. Well, he's doing it because they were selling the films to amateurs, not to pros. And yes, the performance is a bit below Ken's standard, but we've got no personality. If you want to know about Ken's personality, he was a crazy guy in that conventions would come alive when he was there. He got us all to queue up outside a toilet he's found that said reopening in the springtime, and we were all standing there going ooh, 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 just for a mad film, in a pub in Bradford. Bradford's got big steepy slopes, and there was this set of steps outside the pub, and after a few drinks and all that, you know, closing time, gentlemen, he would walk outside, he'd have a roll of that cheap lining paper, wallpaper, under his arm, and he dropped one end and he did bounce down the steps and then down the hill, and he said, quick, quick, roll it up. And all these daft drunks would run down to the bottom end and start doing this while Ken put a brick on it and walked away, because it was only cheap stuff, and they never worked out. He could have easily stood there just winding it up here. Went into a pub another time, and out of his pocket, unbelievably, took a little gas ring, a tiny camping ring, and then he put a rubber tube on there, a little camping frying pan. He had a little plastic thing with a blubber lard in it, and dropped that in, and then he got an egg, and he starts blowing down this end, and the gas tube was a very old magic trick. He lighted the gas and he fried himself an egg on the bar. How to get attention. And he had another one where he was, hey, have you seen that thing on the telly, that new advert, you know, and he'd name a popular beer. He said, he says, in the beer mats, and look, these are them. They've been putting money inside, and a pound note, you could get them in those days, a pound note or a fiver, you know, or a tenner, it depends, they just mix them all up. And so Muggins says, really, why? I'm the stooge. He says, well, you know, you just split them open like this, and he starts ripping them up, and by now he's got the attention of the bar. And he's doing that. He says, hey, look at that, look at that, look at that. Oh, it's only a pound. Never mind, it's worth having. By the time we left the pub, the whole place had torn up beer mats. The publican can't really have liked him. Towards the end, he had a stroke, and that broke my heart. I remember I'd been doing a season on Jersey, and I left Jersey, came home, nobody had told me, and I walked into his studio, and he'd had a stroke. Well, I can still feel it now. Oh, it really hurt. This brilliant man with the ability to take an Akito box, flip it in the air, that's the base, and it would always land bottom down. Take the coin, flip it in the air, and while he's talking, it would land in the box, wouldn't bounce out. And then he'd go flip like this, and the lid would go on top of the box while he was talking. Once asked him how he was so good at the rings and the ropes, and he said, you just keep doing it, Paul, all day long I do it. And for those guys who don't practice, massive lesson there. Ken Brooke, the greatest ever.